Okay, so what we're gonna do? We're gonna, you know, I don't know exactly what this channel's gonna be about. I'm still kind of coming up with ideas, but for right now, we're gonna do a little series or a little. We're just gonna do a video on some of the books that I'm reading currently and what I've been finding in them recently. So I don't need my glasses because wait, wait, do I need my glasses? No, I don't need my glasses. So we can do without glasses. So okay, the first book that I'll be giving you guys a little bit of an inside scoop on is this one. It's called Intuition Pumps and Other Tools for Thinking. Intuition Pumps and Other Tools for Thinking. This is by Daniel C. Dennett. He is the Austin B. Fletcher Professor of Philosophy at Tufts University and has authored numerous landmark books, including Breaking the Spell, Darwin's Dangerous Idea, and Consciousness Explained. So, uh, the reason I got this book is because, um, first, I want to become a better thinker, and it's not every day that you see a book specifically for thinking tools. So I found this like really uh, a treasure to be found. So I bought it when I saw it, and I'm hoping to kind of explore the topics mentioned in here and apply them to my thinking tool set. Um, so let's get into it. Is that I say that a lot, right? Let's get into it, but let's get into it. So you know, let's talk about this cover first. Uh, this cover, as you guys can see, I'm gonna bring it in close and see if you guys can see that. Look at the detail in the letters, but I didn't really like that. It doesn't look it looks a little blurry. Doesn't look too clean, but that's what the illustrator went for the title. It's like little gears inside the letters, and I wasn't too fond of it. It didn't look. It didn't look um, impressive because it kind of looks blurry from a distance. It looks like somebody tried to put those gears in the letters, but then the picture was too small, and they try to expand it, and now it's kind of like blurry or a little pixelated. So I don't like that. But that doesn't matter because what matters is what's inside the book. So anyway, let's. I've read a couple chapters of this book already, so let's start with a little bit of like an introduction. I'm just gonna say what the author says of the tools. So here the author states that there are mathematical tools of thinking where you can prove and disprove uh, arguments through the usage of math, but he's not going to focus on those because there's other material that you can use to find those modes of thinking. But in this book, he says that most of the tools that feature in this book are simpler ones, not the precise systematic machines of mathematics and science, but the hand tools of the mind. And then he goes to list a couple of them. He says, among them are labels, examples, analogies and metaphors, staging, and finally the ones that he's invented or named as intuition pumps. So these are just some of the tools that he's going to go throughout this book. Let's see. So I'm going to read you uh, a couple of these. I'm going to read you all of them: the labels, examples, analogies, metaphors, staging, and intuition pumps. So, okay, labels. Sometimes just creating a vivid name for something helps you keep track of it while you turn it around in your mind trying to understand it. Among the most useful labels, as we shall see, are warning labels or alarms, which alert us to likely sources of error. Then there's examples. Some philosophers think that using examples in their work is, if not quite cheating, at least uncalled for, rather the way novelists shun illustrations in their novels. The novelists take pride in doing all with words, and the philosophers take pride in doing it all with carefully crafted abstract generalizations presented in rigorous order as close to mathematical proofs as they can muster. Good for them, but they can't expect me to recommend their work to any but a few remarkable students. It's just more difficult than it has to be. Analogies and metaphors. Mapping the features of one complex thing onto the features of another complex thing that you already parentheses think you parentheses understand is a famously powerful thinking tool, but it is so powerful that it often leads thinkers astray when their imaginations get captured by a treacherous analogy. Staging. You can shingle a roof, paint a house, or fix a chimney with the help of just a ladder. Moving it and climbing, getting access to only a small part of the job at a time, but it's often a lot easier in the end to take the time at the beginning to erect some sturdy staging that will allow you to move swiftly and safely around the whole project. Several of the most valuable thinking tools in this book are examples of staging that take some time to put in place but then permit a variety of problems to be tackled together without all the ladder moving. And finally, the sort of thought experience I have dubbed intuition pumps. So, what is an intuition pump? Let's see. Okay, here we go. Other thought experiments are less rigorous but often just as effective. Little stories designed to provoke a heartfelt, table thumping intuition, and then, quote, yes, of course it has to be so, unquote, about whatever thesis is being defended. I have called these intuition pumps. Some intuition pumps are excellent, some are dubious, and only a few are downright deceptive. Intuition pumps have been a dominant force in philosophy for centuries. They are the philosopher's version of Aesop's fables, which have been recognized as wonderful thinking tools since before there were philosophers. Then there is Descartes' evil demon deceiving into believing in a world that was entirely illusory, the original virtual reality thought experiment, and Hobbes' state of nature, in which life is nasty, brutish, and short, not as famous as Aesop's Boy Who Cried Wolf or The Ant and the Grasshopper, but still widely known, and each is designed to pump some intuitions. I'm going to read a little bit more just so that you guys get an idea of what an intuition pump is. Plato's cave purports to enlighten us about the nature of perception and reality, and the slave boy is supposed to illustrate our innate knowledge. The evil demon is the ultimate skepticism generator, and our improvement over the state of nature when we contract to form a society is the point of Hobbes' parable. These are the enduring melodies of philosophy, with the staying power that ensures that students will remember them, quite vividly and accurately, years after they have forgotten the intricate surrounding arguments and analysis. A good intuition pump is more robust than any one version of it. We will consider a variety of contemporary intuition pumps, including some defective ones, and the goal will be to understand what they are good for, how they work, how to use them, and even how to make them. Here's a short, simple example: the whimsical jailer. Every night he waits until all the prisoners are sound asleep, and then he goes around unlocking all the doors, leaving them open for hours on end. The question: are the prisoners free? Do they have an opportunity to leave? Not really. Why not? Here's another example: the jewels in the trash can. There happens to be a fortune in jewelry discarded in the trash can on the sidewalk that you stroll by one night. It might seem that you have a golden opportunity to become rich, except it isn't golden at all because it is a bare opportunity, one that you would be extremely unlikely to recognize and hence act on, or even consider. These two simple scenarios pump intuitions that might not otherwise be obvious. The importance of getting timely information about genuine opportunities soon enough for the information to cause us to consider it in time to do something about it. In our eagerness to make free choices uncaused, we like to think, by external forces, we tend to forget that we shouldn't want to be cut off from all such forces. Free will does not abhor our embedding in a rich causal context. It actually requires it. Okay. So there's what a intuition pump looks like. So then he breaks down the story that, or the question that I just asked about the prisoners. If the gates are open at a certain time, are they all free? And he breaks it down into a couple like facts from the story, and he asks the questions again, adding and subtracting different variables. Um, so it goes deep into what could be a possible solution or answer to that question, and that's where he starts with the tools for thinking. So let's see what else he talks about. Okay, so this is, I guess, chapter 2, but I'm just going to give you what it says here on chapter 2. Um, a dozen general thinking tools. Most of the thinking tools in this book are quite specialized, made to order for application to a particular topic and even a particular controversy within the topic. But before we turn to these intuition pumps, here are a few general purpose thinking tools, ideas, and practices that have proved themselves in a wide variety of contexts. So, number 1, making mistakes. Oh, making mistakes is a long chapter. Number 2, by parity of reasoning, using reductio ad absurdum. 3, Rappaport's rules. 4, Sturgeon's law. 5, Occam's razor. 6, Occam's broom. 7, using lay audiences as decoys. 8, juicing. 9, 3 species of golding, rathering, piling on, and the gold two-step. 10, the Shirley operator, a mental block. 11 is... Where's 11? Why did they skip 11? I think I got a misprint because I don't have 11. 9, 10, and then it goes to 12. Okay, because it goes 50, 51, page 52, then number 10, and then it goes, when I turn the page, oh wait, no it's not. It's in here. Never mind. Okay. It was just stuck together. So, number 10, the Shirley operator, a mental block. And 11, rhetorical questions. Number 12, what is a deepity? And so those are the 12 general tools for thinking. But then there's a bunch of other tools that continue that. And he goes on to list them and explain what each tool means to do. So, let's see. Yeah, so this is, really great stuff. It has this stuff. This chapter's called this chapter's called An Interlude About Computers, and it says the 7 secrets of computer power revealed. And then I guess it goes into a little bit of like programming and how a computer gets instructions. And then it has a few flowcharts in here that are probably going to be interesting to read, but I don't know if you guys can see that right there and right here. So that's definitely going to be something to look at when you guys are reading this book, if you guys find it interesting. So that's just one chapter of that, though. It talks about virtual machines. So this book just is packed with tons of different methods of thinking for different types of situations, and I know it's going to be a really good read. You know, I'm already enjoying it, and I'm only like about 5 chapters in. I've gone through maybe the first 6 tools of thinking, and it's really cool. One of the tools that he says that you should implement, especially in an academic setting, when you're more at the like professor level, or you have peers that kind of are in the same field as you are in, and at the same level. He says that using a decoy audience to explain your ideas about the subject could be a good one, because when you're talking with another researcher, he explains that you don't want to, it's an unspoken rule that you don't want to dumb it down to you don't want to dumb down your idea to a kind of like ridiculous level as to insult the person you're explaining it to. So there's a level of kind of like respect or like expectancy that the person you're talking to already knows how to understand what you're saying fully or at the basic level. So there's no need for you to dumb it down for them. So when these people, this is all in their heads. When they're talking to each other, they don't want to do that as like to show respect, and also they since they don't want to do that, oftentimes the idea doesn't get communicated across rightfully, because the other person doesn't ask questions about it, or just didn't get the points, and the other person doesn't want to like over explain it. So this kind of mismatch causes a lack of understanding between these two people. So he says that providing a decoy audience, for example, making a talk about your idea to undergraduates maybe, or graduate students, and explaining it at their level so that they understand, while inviting other professionals in your field to sit around the outskirts to listen in. You can provide the basic knowledge, or the knowledge at a basic level, enough for them to understand, them meaning the students, but mostly the faculty or the professors, the researchers, so that they understand fully, and there's no loss of like reputation because you dumbed it down for somebody, or that person doesn't feel insulted because you dumbed it down for them. So while they're at the outskirts, they can listen into the basic building blocks of the conversation, and they have a more fuller understanding, and you get by that thing that happens with these kind of bright people. So this one's called decoy audience, using a decoy audience. So you're just using the audience as a means to provide the full explanation to the other peers that you have. So that's one of the thinking tools that you can use. So with that being said, that's just one of the tools. Um, really great book. I really enjoyed the first, I guess, pages of it. So let's move on to the next book that I'm reading. So now this one's called How to Live. How to Live. Or A Life of Montaigne. How to Live or A Life of Montaigne. Okay, so this book is basically this guy called Montaigne lived in the 1500s, and he he invented the personal essay. And in the intro, you get to know that essay in French meant to be translated as to try something. So when he wrote his personal essays, he called them the essays, and he basically was just trying something out. It was meant to be like a kind of like a creative kind of thing that he just tried out by writing everything that would happen in his life and reflecting on those experiences and writing them on paper. And that's what he called the essays. So this book uh, is is like a condensation of the ideas in the essays by Montaigne, and the whole book revolves around the question how to live life. And then it gives 21 questions, I think. Yeah. 20 in one question and 20 attempts at an answer. So one question and 20 attempts at an answer. He the author, who is Sarah Bakewell, she um, she basically condenses the answers of the essays, and she answers the question of how to live life based on the reflections that Montaigne had through writing the essays. So you kind of get a little bit of a philosophy, and this is actually from the philosophy section as well as the book that I just showed, the intuition pumps. So this one is kind of like I got it just because I wanted to kind of like see how a person in the 1500s lived, like what their experience is, because I think the back flap of the book says that uh, throughout uh, this time now that people have read the essays by Montaigne, they find that they are not too different from Montaigne. They have the same kind of questions that he had when he was alive, and so there seems to be a shared perspective between the people now, the people that read him, and himself. And I found that pretty interesting because it's like, wow, like, what is it, 300, no, 500 years ago, people were still kind of bothered by the same things or thinking about the same questions that we ask ourselves now. So it's kind of interesting to see what they have to say about it. And it's just kind of like to widen my perspective about things and to have a different perspective on, how to live life. So I found that this book can satisfy that. So this book, I think I've read a chapter or two on this one, and the first question is how to live, but it says the answer is don't worry about death. So the first chapter talks about not worrying about death and living your life without a worry about death. And the chapter she talks about, Sarah talks about how um, Montaigne used to have this feud with death, and he couldn't sleep at nights because he would be thinking about the possibilities of how he would die, and it would torment him. But one time he experienced a near death experience, and kind of that woke him up to the idea that he could die at any moment, but that moment you never really can predict. So it's useless to be thinking about death all the time, because at the time that he experienced his near death experience, he was just having a regular day and he wasn't thinking about death, but it just happened to be. Out of all the times that he thinks about death, the time that he experienced a near death experience, he wasn't thinking about death. So it just goes to say that he then kind of made a realization that no matter how much you think about death, how prepared you think you are for death, you never know when it's going to strike. And that's how he got over his fear of death, and that's how he started living a life more fully when he stopped fearing death. So this is just the first chapter. Let me give you guys like maybe three more answers to that question, not in any particular order. Number 4, chapter 4, how to live. Read a lot. Forget most of what you read and be slow-witted. So that's one. Number 7, how to live. Question everything. And chapter 8, how to live. Keep a private room behind the shop. So see all these answers, kind of he goes into depth on why these answers are the answers to how to live for Montaigne. And I guess there's little stories embedded in these things based on Montaigne's experiences, but it's an entertaining read, and it kind of sucks you into his life at that time, and I find that pretty interesting. So I recommend this book as well. No complaints yet. And let me see if I have any other books that I can show you guys. And I guess the last book that we can kind of go over before this video ends is Aimlessness. This is Aimlessness by Tom Lutz. And let me give you the back flap. So, Aimlessness collects ideas and stories from around the world that value interaction, wandering, getting lost, waiting, meandering, lingering, sitting, laying about, daydreaming, and other ways to be open to possibility, chaos, and multiplicity. Tom Lutz considers aimlessness as a fundamental human proclivity and method, one that has been vilified by modern industrial societies, but celebrated by many religious traditions, philosophers, writers, and artists. So Tom Lutz is the founding editor and publisher of the Los Angeles Review of Books and distinguished professor of creative writing at the University of California at Riverside. His many books include Born Slippy, a novel, in 2020, and Doing Nothing, a history of loafers, loungers, slackers, and bums, 2008, which won the American Book Award. That's another one that I want to read. But this one basically talks about different artists and how they came about doing something different by not necessarily having a goal in mind. Maybe they had a general idea, but they didn't really have a specific process to do it, and they kind of wandered into it aimlessly, into the method that they used or the product that they developed. And personally, I got this book because I wanted to feel better about myself, about not having an aim for the time being. And not that I don't have an aim in life, but more like I've reached the things that I've tried to reach, and now I'm kind of empty or kind of not fulfilled. So now, after these periods of having these ambitions and goals and that I've reached them, now I'm kind of like wondering what's next. So in that time period that I was saying or asking myself what's next, I went to the bookstore and this book, popped out at me, and I thought it was appropriate, so I started reading it. But yeah, it goes into experiences of these, like researchers or artists or um, any of these types of people that created something great, and he goes into it kind of in a very structured way. He delineates what these people did to create that product that they created. And in that, you can see that sometimes aimlessness is not a bad thing. But, that's the first argument that he brings to light, is that what is aimlessness? He defines it, and then he is arguing that it's not as bad as people make it out to be, and that society now, what is it, the Industrial Revolution, um, modern industrial societies have vilified aimlessness. So he goes on to talk about a little bit about that. Um, this book is not what I expected. I thought it was going to be more, different. Let me just, let's see. It's a different type of book to read. It's I found it like a little kind of, it's a different type of writing is what I mean. But let me read a little bit about it. Okay, let me read you the introduction, which is just that page right there. So, aimlessness, an introduction. Aimlessness is a refutation, like lovelessness or homelessness. The word suggests a privation, a lack, but it has an added resonance. Love and home are positive, and their lack negative, but aim is trickier. To be aimless can mean to be lost, to have no direction, but it can also mean to be open, unhurried, unconniving, nonviolent. To be aimless is to have nobody in your sights, to have no target, to be ingenious, guileless. It's just a disinterest in, or even resistance to strained stratagems, productivity, or efficiency. It can mean wanton, and some of us like to be wanton. It can suggest drifting, and some of us like to drift. Aimlessness, in art, in life, in writing, in thought, in being, is always more than the lack it names. So right there you guys have it. He thinks more of aimlessness than the name suggests. If you guys are in for if you guys are in for interesting kind of new way of looking at things, and you guys like the way he writes, or at least are trying to see if, or trying to get through the writing, I suggest this book. I would suggest reading maybe one chapter out of the book, or at least a couple pages. The chapters aren't that long, and you could finish a chapter in maybe like 5-10 minutes. So read a chapter in the bookstore, and just, if you like the writing, get it. But I think if I had read it in stores a little bit, I would have not taken it. But now I have it, and I'm gonna read it. So, good one. So that's it. That's it for books. I'm gonna read a little bit more about them, and maybe I'll do another video, just kind of going over what I read and the ideas that were in the books. If you guys are interested in that, let me know, and I'll keep doing these videos. But for now, I think that's all I have for these books. this was just a little segment. Now we're gonna see what I come up with next. Just trying stuff out, so we'll see if this keeps on being a thing. If you guys like it, just kind of like what is it? Like it or subscribe, and just keep the comments coming, and tell me what you think of it. If you guys thought this was informational, um, you know, give me some feedback. I have some other books that I can go into as well. So either I can go in depth with these books a little bit more, with the books that I just showed. I can, you know, take some notes and kind of summarize the chapters. If you guys are interested in any of those books, I can do a video for each one of them, or I can just, you know, put them together in one video, depending on how in depth you guys want to learn about these books. I have other books as well that I can do reviews on, and I can share those in the next video if you guys are interested. And I can do the same thing with those books. You know, that's it for this episode. But for now, peace out. It was good being here with you guys, and I hope you guys enjoyed having this time together. So have a good one, guys.